Hello and welcome. I just wanted to make another video, cause why not? And so, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Because I noticed that my TE stick is just nowhere to be seen apparently. Although, like, I don't know if that's really true. It probably is. It seems like, to be fair, it was coming in and out a lot, and I would really have to be going to the gym consistently to make sure it stays there. And but to be fair, I've still been going to the gym, and it's still really not entirely there. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens, right? And I mean, even there, I did some JE-isms, but we'll see what happens. But I will say that right now I feel kind of disengaged with the external world. Um, so what do I mean by that? I'm still in the world, of course. Um, I can't not be, and I'm still an NE type, a PE type. So I still look around a lot, and I still observe things and try to make sense of things based on my observation, um, and stuff like that. But I mean, what can be observed is not always outside, and or in the world. And JE is very in the world. I feel the TE, but not necessarily. I guess. How do I say this? I guess I don't really have explicit goals, and I'm not really chasing those explicit goals. I'm also not necessarily doing anything useful or productive. I mean, I think I am, but not in the sense that other people might think, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm reading, like, about Jung, and I'm reading, the Tao, and Wikipedia pages and stuff. I'm not out there in the world creating new things. Well, new thing meaning permutation of things that are already there, because the only person who can create something out of nothing is God. But I digress. Yeah, and I'm kind of trying to string together or make sense of everything, and trying to come to one. Well, I don't even know if I need to come to one coherent worldview, and I feel like I kind of had already, although the free will is still a problem, for example. So, in one sense, you could say, like, oh, we don't have free will because you can definitely make some kind of argument, and I haven't really thought about it honestly, like, super well and in detail, and I don't really want to. But whether or not they're like the world is deterministic and like predetermined, right? But I don't know. What I can tell you is that, like, I was talking to my wife yesterday, and and I was telling her that I was having a problem with free will, and she said, "All right, stop walking. Look down at your feet, and now put one foot in front of the other." And so I moved my right foot, and she said, "All right, which foot did you pick?" I said, "The right one." And she said, "Did you make a choice?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Were you free to choose?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Then you have free will." And I think that's good enough for me. And I think whatever else we want to define free will as being simply doesn't matter, because I have the freedom to choose these things, and it stands to reason I really have the freedom to pick any action. I can't necessarily control the circumstances, but I can control my own actions. Um, and so yeah, and obviously there may be some amount of paradox there. I'm not sure. That's like okay, but anyway, I guess to get more at this TE stuff, I don't feel super motivated to work, um, which I do feel more when I'm TE. I don't necessarily feel very interested in goal setting or in building things or arguing with people, um, or building systems or anything. You know, I feel like all there is for me to do is to just figure out what's next and to understand things. And yeah, I don't know. And something like that. And yeah, I mean, it feels pretty introverted as a process, as you know, everything is just kind of introverted, and I don't mind it. I feel very whole, and I feel very complete. But it is also worth noting that, in some sense, I'm not whole because I could have the JE, but I don't. And so that does make me wonder about ideas of Carl Jung, because Carl Jung thinks that, you know, the shadow should be integrated and dealt with. Although I know Jung also thought that the polar process was not integratable, and that if you do integrate your polar process, then like you lose your lead function or something, and it's like no bueno. Of course, this is not consistent with CT's understanding, and so whenever we talk about CT, we might be talking about something entirely different, right? And that's like unclear, and I think I need to go read more about that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I just have questions and things that I want to sort out, and I want to go gain more information. And I know that the truest true thing ever is this God phenomena, is something like the Tao, and the Tao often calls for not inaction, but mindful action, and opportune action, and non-doing, so wu wei. And non-doing doesn't mean to seek disengagement with the world, so far as I understand, but it means effortless action, right? So it means that the way I understand that, I don't know, actually, I guess I don't understand it, and that's the problem. So on one hand, it's like, does that mean that I should just be passive? I think it means I should be passive by default, probably. So it's also like, I just feel like I need to understand what is meant, and I need to understand what is right, what seems right, based on this God thing that I've come into contact with. I need to figure out what to do next. What do I do about that? And I have this sense of wholeness, but I just keep looking for more answers despite that. And that might be the thing for me to do, right? It might be that I should just keep looking for answers, and I should just keep studying history and stuff, and maybe even making my own ideas and theories, which I kind of am now. And that's fine. But it might not involve very much JE, which is also okay. I don't know, I'm kind of just rambling. You can see that because I don't have JE, my thoughts are very unstructured, and my articulation is not amazing. But I think I feel very calm, and I feel very whole and connected with everyone and everything. And I would like to keep that wholeness. And I don't think integrating JE takes the wholeness away, but I will say that I think I was going down a bad path the more JE I got and the more I tended to utilize JE. I went down this path that it started out good and then it got bad. And I started letting anger consume me and righteousness. And now I know that to be righteous is not to walk with God. And anger is also not very good, generally speaking. You don't want to have too much anger. You don't want to be consumed with anger. And anger is often useful and indicative of something. But I shouldn't have been angry at other people. I should have been angry at myself. Or I just shouldn't have been angry. You know, the problem wasn't with other people. The problem was with me. And I think I might be able to integrate JE and keep that as a life lesson for me with the JE. Or I might not. I don't know. I do notice that people with JE tend to really get into heated arguments and stuff. And I think most of the time there's no need for that, and it's not very interesting or useful. And so it's not necessarily a moral judgment or a bad thing, but I notice that these conflicts really often cause tension, and they don't leave the world in a better place than it was. And I think usually we can approach these conflicts from not places of anger, but from places of just seeking resolution in peace. And I feel like anger comes from making judgment that you perceive as being correct, and I don't know, getting upset with other people for not being correct. And what goes beyond that? Oh, why would you be upset with someone if they're not correct? I don't know, it's just you're assuming that you have this idea of justice and what is right. And you are so convicted in that. And I feel like everything I've learned has showed me that I should not... I mean, it definitely told me that I shouldn't go around being angry, and that I should have compassion, and I should seek to be whole and feel whole. But I also wonder if one can be whole and also like feel conviction and also not get angry at people. Can you feel conviction and not get angry? I think so, I guess. I mean, we might define what I have right now as conviction. I have conviction in the uncertainty. I guess. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I have conviction in the uncertainty, and I have conviction in the fact that we can never know. And that's just kind of always sitting within me, and that keeps me humble, and it keeps me peaceful. And obviously sometimes I get mad. I break that peace. But then I seek to find it again, you know? So if I get in like an argument with someone, right? Say like my wife and I, we get a little bit heated over, it's probably over some kind of misunderstanding, right? And then emotions get involved. And then we start getting angry and defending ourselves. And the answer is never to double down on anger. Unless it can help you make clear the situation. But often I think the best way to achieve anger, and that will leave everyone feeling the best and the most whole, is to just say, you know, whenever they call you out on something and say like, oh, why are you being angry? Or, no, your argument doesn't make sense. Like, why are you getting mad with me or whatever? And even if they're mad, it's still okay for me to be like, you're right. I shouldn't be mad. I don't know, like, you know, let's seek to not be mad, and let's seek to resolve this misunderstanding and just be on the same page, be aligned, be whole. And I think if you do that and somebody's angry with you in that moment, there's so much power in that. They're like, oh, like you don't feel good being angry against somebody who admits that they have done wrong, right? Because the purpose of anger is to show people that they're wrong in a way. I think anger is basically just one path of trying to affect change in the world because you see something as disorderly. And I think what happens most of the time is that the world wasn't actually disorderly to begin with. You were just delusional or like incorrect, or your ego was too involved. And yeah, but like you don't need anger there either. Anger doesn't make us feel good. I mean, it does actually sometimes, but I think like the end result leaves us feeling less whole. And I think it's apparent that anger is not the way forward. Anger is useful and it should not be repressed or ignored, but it's not something to strive for. Yeah, and so like you see this duality in things. I'm not talking about the world being a dual nature or whatever, as people love arguing against. What I'm talking about is that the way we as humans at least see the world is that everything is kind of has a, you know, there's two sides to everything. And I think the other side of anger is compassion, basically. And I think compassion is the correct way of dealing with things usually. And I think if you have compassion, then there's no need for anger. Yeah, I don't know. I've just been feeling that compassion. Just been sitting with it, with God. And it seems to have brought my JE down, but I think it could come back maybe too. It could just be too that like I was integrating it in the totally wrong way, and I need to see both sides of it more holistically. You know, I was just bringing out the destroying side of JE more. I need to not fall to that and nurture the creating side of JE more, maybe. And you know, like I mentioned, there's just kind of like, for pretty much anything you can say, you can create the equal and opposite property. And you can conceptualize the two things as coexisting. And I mean, if you define one thing, then it's necessary for its shadow component to exist. And you can view things as a balance through the good and the bad, kind of, the light and the dark. And both sides are important to acknowledge and necessary. So I guess maybe what will happen for me is, but I also think, you know, there's just more than just two sides, obviously. I think you can look at it, you know, it's a whole circle, right? And if you look at a circle from only two sides, let's say a side covers 1 degree in width, then you still have another 358 to go. So, you know, it's just one way of looking at it to approximate it whenever I talk about this duality or the dual nature of anything. And yeah, so I think that there might be room for TE in the future, but I don't know. Right now, I don't feel a desire for that. I know that in the past when I've had TE, I felt really good. But I feel really good now. I feel very whole. And admittedly, I do think I'm pretty lazy and not really engaging with the world a lot. And I wonder if that's wrong, right? I don't think there's anything necessarily that says these are the functions I should have integrated based on who I am. I mean, it does seem like my Enneagram type 6. My Chi type is 613. And my, well, in terms of archetype systems, the brand archetypes, we put me in the Sage category. And I think that's correct. But maybe I should seek to be everything. I don't know. But it's clear that, I'm an NEFI, right? So that's never going to change. And the best I can do is integrate all the energetics, but I can't be the other quadras. So it does mean at some point there's like a limitation. There's a necessary limitation to the human being. I mean, as we already knew, of course, but I mean, even more ways, I can't be any other type than NEFI, and I also can't be anything but male. And my hair is black or brown, and my skin is white, my eyes are brown. These things are inescapable. And so I guess maybe the next point is to look for, given my physicality, what should my archetypal nature be? Where should I be going towards? Maybe that might be a good place to look. But even then, I can just look at it for myself, and where's the next spot I want to go? I don't know. I just want to retain this feeling of wholeness and make sure that I stay present with it. But I do think that the more life gets in the way, the more complicated things get, probably the more I'll lose this feeling of wholeness. Maybe that's why the monks meditate so much and they stay in their monasteries. They don't have to deal with the world, the social constructs, the desires of others, the inability to see the whole. Takes them out of the whole. And I suppose the challenge of man, perhaps, is to face the world and still be with that whole. But I don't know if that's every man's challenge or someone else's challenge. I don't know if that should be my challenge. Certainly I will engage with the world, but I really enjoy feeling whole, and I want to feel whole, and I can spread that wholeness, not necessarily even directly interacting with other people. I don't know. And then, we have this whole question of like my job, and it's like, well, I don't feel motivated to do that, and it's not getting me any closer to the truth, or it does not help me keep a feeling of fullness. What about that? I don't know. I'm not sure where things go from here, but that's okay. I will figure it out. Or I won't, and it'll just happen. That's also okay. Yeah. I hope this was somewhat coherent. And catch y'all later.